Welcome back to the show, Diana. Excited to have you.
I'm excited to be back.
So, during the pandemic and even in this kind of like post-pandemic, post-mortem, whatever you want to call it, that we're in right now, nursing and healthcare has been a huge focus throughout that, which is probably a good thing because your job was essential and super important during that time. How did the pandemic change your job and daily life? And what has it really kind of taught you about yourself, medical field, health of Americans? What have you learned over the course of the past 15, 18 months?
Yeah. Well, like I said before, I literally started I started my career a few months before the pandemic really hit. So the biggest thing for me was being able to adapt and just learn fast.
Mhm.
I learned from my coworkers. I leaned on my coworkers for support. I learned to not have a problem with asking for help, which definitely no nurse should have that problem. Um, and just kind of, reassuring each other and reassuring our families and the patients with all their heightened anxiety that they had from this. Um, Kind of being transparent with them. I mean, sometimes they were asking, questions that I obviously did not know. None of us knew,
Mhm.
and you just had to be transparent with them and kind of say, we're doing the best we can to with the information that we have now, and just we're learning new things every day.
Yeah, for sure. I like how you said too, it's not just about you, it's about other people, right? It's about kind of calming their anxiety and calming their stress levels.
Mhm.
And I like how you kind of stay humble throughout this. Like these podcasts are mostly about you, and yet you keep pointing out that it's the bigger picture, it's other people, and it's what you can do to impact other people. There was a president in the 60s, I think it was JFK, that said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And it's like that kind of mindset seems to have disappeared
Yeah.
lately.
Mhm.
So I think it's really cool that you point that out. um, what have you noticed about like the health of the American people during this time? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Where are we kind of trending lately?
With COVID, especially, I think it has gotten better in my eyes. I mean, at least what I'm seeing, at least, starting my fitness account and starting my whole like online journey and everything, I think it's gotten better. So many of us, with all the gyms closed and everything, we were all doing these home workouts. We were all like, walking more, getting outside more while it was like warm out, last summer. Um, but in regards to like outside of fitness, with your our mindsets and everything, I
Mhm.
think with the pandemic, obviously there's even saying like everybody's, mental health has gotten worse. And I totally agree with that. You're not seeing, your family, you're not seeing your friends, you're kind of cooped up inside. And I think that was a big part of what kind of ruined our healthcare,
Yep.
or the health of Americans during the pandemic. So, I mean, there was just multiple things I was telling people to do and reminding myself to do, to just check in on each other and make sure, you're still doing what you're doing to improve your mental health.
Right, for sure. It all starts from within. And,
Mhm.
we talk about things like exercise and different like nutritional things or fitness that are so important. But if you don't have the mental mindset to kind of go through those things and suffer through some of that workout pain or the pain of eating, chicken, rice, and broccoli again instead of, another double chocolate brownie and ice cream. Not to say that's a bad thing to do on occasion, but not something you should do every day.
Yeah,
If you don't have that mental fortitude to be able to go through that, everything else kind of crumbles. And I like how you point out that anxiety and fear and all these other things were so high and so prevalent. And I think that explains a lot of the physical changes we saw. I think the average American gained like 18 pounds or 20 pounds over the
mhm,
course of 2020. So, when mental health suffers, everything else kind of tumbles down with it, right? Mental health is kind of uh, that foundation, that base that everything else kind of sits upon.
exactly.
So, with that too, kind of going into those numbers a bit, I mean, the health of America is trending in a poor direction. We're currently at like a 75% population overweight and obese. We're going to break 95% within the next 20, 30 years, according to John Hopkins models and Harvard University Medical School's models. And only like 14, 15% of Americans are actually in like what we consider good metabolic health. And, you know, saying stuff like that and getting lost in these numbers, man, it's so easy to get down and depressed, and your own mental health takes a toll from it, right? You see that and you're like, well, you know, am I in the good number? Am I in the bad number? And this is where I think you're someone who really offers a unique perspective, because you are in the medical field. You have a intense medical knowledge background with nursing school, but you're also in the fitness side of things, and you see the world through the eyes of a young female, which offers different perspectives than, say, a 23-year-old white male from a small town. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to add about kind of why fitness is, you know, so important for healthy living, how mental health plays into fitness, and, you know, what else outside of like your gym exercise plays into your overall picture of health.
Yeah. Well, outside of the gym, definitely, like I said, the mental health portion is what you should be kind of focusing on, kind of first and foremost. I mean, you can be working out every day, going for runs, whatever, and have your body so in shape, but have your mind so like messed up and just so, you know, like down and depressed, and just not taking care of yourself in that regard. In the regard of like fitness and everything, like I said before, just doing one good thing, one new thing a day, drinking more water that day, substituting a burger for a wrap, or, you know, something like that. I'm not asking people and I'm not telling people to jump right into doing all these new things. It's just one small thing a day that'll snowball into more.
For sure. Yeah. That's kind of building off of what we talked about on Monday too, which
Yeah.
if you haven't gone back and listened to that episode yet, highly recommend you go back, give it a listen, share it with your friends. But yeah, it really is one small thing. Now, I know a lot of people kind of struggle with where to start. It's easy to get lost in these little things like, hey, should I go vegetarian, vegan and trend that way? Or, you know, this guy's carnivore. Should I start eating less vegetables? Or this guy's keto, paleo. You know, this guy does powerlifting, that girl does strongman, that girl does CrossFit. Like, where do I go? So where do you recommend people start when it's so easy to get lost in this sea of noise everywhere?
Everybody's bodies are different. You can be doing, you could have the same trainer, you can have the same workout routine, you could have the same macros, or everything the same as your neighbor, and look completely different. And I think that's what people need to grasp first and foremost, and kind of step back and stop comparing. I mean, just be grateful for the body that you have and improve the body that you have, because we all have different bodies. Regardless of if you're doing, you know, CrossFit or just plain strength training, you're building muscle and you're going to burn more calories. Like, that's kind of, if that's your end goal, to burn more calories, that's your goal. You know, you're going to build muscle regardless. Same thing, like if you're walking or you're going for runs, like you're going to get your steps in regardless. Just kind of stop with all the comparison, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I like how you point that out. Like, CrossFit is not strongman. Strongman is not powerlifting. Powerlifting is not Olympic weightlifting. Olympic weightlifting is not bodybuilding. But oddly enough, all 5, 6 of those different fitness things I just mentioned boil down to this thing that I just call general physical prep. And I don't have a better term for it. I don't think I've seen it or heard of it anywhere else. So I'm not going to say I coined the term, but general physical prep is just doing basic exercises really well, doing basic movement patterns. So being able to squat, being able to deadlift, being like that hinging kind of movement, being able to do a lunge, being able to reach up overhead, and whether you're pushing something up or pulling something down. So basically overhead barbell press, overhead dumbbell press, or pull up, pull down kind of movement. These are the kinds of things that we do every single day. That's what our body was meant to do. We sit down and stand up. We bend at our hips. We lunge forward, we twist and rotate, we reach up and we pull stuff down. If you can't do the basic things really well, then nothing else is really going to matter. One. And two, if you find that you love CrossFit or you love bodybuilding or whatever, then being able to do those things is kind of important. I haven't really seen a bodybuilder who's been successful without doing pull-ups or pull downs or any kind of back work. I haven't seen a CrossFitter who's been successful by not doing a barbell thruster when it's in the workout. So
I was gonna say that too, that it's kind of, not to interrupt you, but it's
no, please do.
It's all about what you love too. I mean, like if you love yoga over Pilates or whatever, like do that, do what you love, do what kind of exercise you love.
Yep.
But I also do encourage you to like try something new. You don't know if you're going to love it. I hated yoga the first time I tried it, and now I love it. So, it's all about trying something new. If you don't really like it, give it a few times and then do something that you love. That's going to be good for you,
And the other piece too is we put people into boxes, right? We say, oh, you're a CrossFitter, and that's how they identify. Oh, you're a power lifter. That's how they identify. Whatever happened to being like a jack of all trades? And I know people are going to say like, oh, jack of all trades, master of none. I think that saying is kind of overrated, because it is okay to do a lot of different things pretty well. No one is saying you have to go to the gym and instantly be world class at everything you do. Like I've been in the gym for 8-10 years now, and I'm still not even close to that level. So it's better to be good at a lot of things, like be able to move freely, right? That's kind of the yoga principle. Be able to lift heavy, that powerlifting strongman kind of principle, but also be able to put it together into something functional like CrossFit. And if you want that aesthetic look kind of appeal, then maybe a little bit of bodybuilding. You can kind of blend everything together into what you want out of your training. And I think that we become so polarized into putting people into boxes, saying you are this, you are that. That's how you identify. You are CrossFit, you are powerlifter. And instead, we just kind of need to break down those walls and just say, yeah, I do fitness, like plain and simple.
Exactly.
And with that too, you've said mental health a lot. Bettering your fitness also betters your mental health. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, the endorphins I feel after after working out definitely helps your mental health.
There's actually some interesting research now too about cannabinoid receptors, so kind of the same stuff that CBD and marijuana goes after. And there's some early work that shows that, hey, exercise might actually be something that benefits those receptors and stimulates those receptors, similar to what CBD might do. So it's still early on in the process, but it's interesting to note that we still don't really understand what all exercise does for us, but we know it's good.
Yeah. All I know is when I'm on my stretch of like working out, getting up early, drinking water, everything, I feel much better than the days that I go out, which is, it's fine to go out. You know me, I preach that all over my Instagram, that it's fine to go out and have fun, but I feel better like on the days that I'm consistent and everything than the days that I'm laying in bed and I'm like hungover from, before, and just like eating crappier food or whatever, and my mental health is like better too.
No, I feel the same way. And with that too, I think it's important to note that, one, I doubt my ability to be able to hang with you in the gym, but two, I really doubt my ability to hang with you on a Friday night at like 10:30 at the bar. So just kind of a fun side note there. But kind of with that too, it is important to have that balance. It is important to be able to go out and do things you enjoy. And whether that's, downing an IPA or your fourth Truly for the weekend or whatever it is, or, crushing like some cupcakes, cinnamon roll, whatever your guilty pleasure is. Like I usually tell people, look, take one day a week and just let loose, have at it. And I tell them to know how you feel during the day, know how you feel the day after, and see if that feels as good as normal. And 99% of the time they say, I don't feel as good the day after. but after like 2 or 3 days, I recover and I feel better. But they enjoy being able to let loose and, kind of eat and move less and just do what they feel like doing, take that lazy day. And I think
Exactly.
those days are super important to kind of build in.
Definitely. You can't be too restrictive.
um, have you kind of used similar recommendations, or how do you recommend people balance the restriction with the let loose?
I say the same thing with restriction. I like I said, I think I said in the previous podcast that, with my previous eating disorder, like I restricted so much and I like would literally save the weekends for like cheat days and like quote unquote cheat days, whatever. And like eat so much and then feel like guilty afterwards and everything. And it's like I could have just during the week had like a piece of dark chocolate at night and like curb my craving. You know what I mean? And like
Mhm.
been like fine with it and then not like crazy indulge on the weekend, and I would have felt so much better. So that's what I tell people, like if you want to enjoy like an Oreo a night, 2 Oreos a night, like go ahead, do that so that you're not eating like the whole pack on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
you
Like
know
50 calories once a day, as opposed to like 1,000 all at once.
yeah, exactly. And
Wow,
you got to do that because it's so much better for your health, your mental health, everything, because you'll just be in a balance.
for sure. I will add too, I give props to anyone who can self-control themselves to eat one Oreo,
I know.
one piece of dark chocolate. I have this terrible reputation. My big thing is dark chocolate almonds. I love
Mhm.
dark chocolate almonds, and I can very easily plow through an entire box if I'm not careful. And it's happened on multiple occasions in the past week. So we're not all always perfect. We slip
No,
up
definitely
sometimes.
not.
But ultimately you got to try and have more good days than bad days. And I like to
Yep.
try for that 80-20 principle. Like 80% of the time, be good. The other
Yep.
20%, it doesn't matter.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So with that too, carrying that over into like where we see healthcare going in the future. We've talked a lot about some of these trends so far, and where we see our country going from like a health and fitness standpoint, and obviously that carries over into the medical side of things.
Mm.
Where do you kind of see the future of healthcare trending? What do you see? Are we going the right direction? Do we need to do more? Do we need to completely reverse course? What should we be doing?
Honestly, it's like all over the place. I mean, I think what we're doing now in regards to, I think more people are becoming more aware of that, where our healthcare is and that it's really not too great right now.
Hmm.
And that, more prevention and intervention has to be done to kind of focus on those things and education and everything, then more focus on the disease and the illness that now the person has, like focus on the before and preventing everything instead of the end result and the disease.
Right.
um and I think we're doing a good job though with, I know at one of the offices I was at for my work, they were doing a lot of telehealth visits. And I think that's a great, great, great idea. I don't agree with the fact that it still costs the same amount. And I know that's all up in the air. Like, yes, the doctor, you're still spending time with the doctor and everything. They need, they get their cut and everybody gets their cut. But I think it's a good thing, telehealth, that it takes a lot of the barriers of childcare out of the way, worrying about childcare, worrying about transportation, that some of those basic things keep somebody back from even going to the doctor, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's increased access to care
Yeah.
through a cost-effective and efficient means, which is kind of what we need right now. There's tons of trends about like universal health care, but like we literally do not have the financial capacity to support it right now.
Yeah. The
But
perfect world, yeah, we would.
yeah, so
But
um, but with that too, using things like telehealth to be effective and efficient, and even if it's just triage stuff like, hey, what I'm seeing tells me you need to come in and get further care,
yeah.
or what, honestly, this is probably just this is probably just that, just take this, stay at home a couple days. it'll pass, you'll be fine. Like being able to do that will not only save patients time and money, but it will make our whole system more effective and efficient because people won't come in unless they actually need to be seen. So
Hmm.
what happens then? Less wait times, less co-pays, less backup at the doctors. Doctors, nurses will probably be a little more stress-free, I guess, because you don't have quite as many people there. And this is all hypothetical. Obviously, nothing ever goes according to plan, but it seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
Um, I also like how you said we need to focus more on prevention and intervention,
Hmm.
especially early on. I think early mobilization is key, and a lot of people like to hail physical therapists for that, right? We are the movement experts. Well, I also think that nursing plays a huge role in that because while we might see a patient in an inpatient setting like half an hour, maybe an hour a day, you're there like 8 to 12 hour shifts and you're
Hmm.
assigned like 3 or 4 patients. So if I just do the math, 12-hour shift divided by 4 patients is 3 hours per patient. So, if you were doing things like getting patients up and moving them or, stretching or something like that, that's the kind of stuff that can have a huge impact. They might not see it right away, but maybe later down the line. And I think a lot of this too, kind of like you said, it's not just confined to in the walls of a hospital or in the
Hmm.
walls of a doctor's office or a clinic. It's everywhere. And, you're doing stuff with your own health and fitness page and your business kind of get at that, right? It's not just like what you do with your doctor, it's exercise, it's healthy habits. Like exercise is medicine. You
Yeah.
can dose it, it's going to have positive effects similar to taking certain things. So I kind of like how you take that approach, and it's not just something you say, but you actively do it, which makes it all the more powerful, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. I guess I'll add too, if I'm talking too much, please stop me because I have the
No, you're good.
ramble. Um, a while back, we had Dr. Stephen Hussey on, and I've mentioned this in a couple different kind of recorded podcasts that haven't been released yet. So it's kind of a common theme here. He mentioned about how sometimes access and quantity of care is not the problem, but it's the quality that's given. And he said that a lot of our research and medical guidance and medical practice is done in clinical trials. So things that are done in the lab settings, things that are very highly controlled and specific. And we try and eliminate as many other confounding variables and factors as we can. Yet in reality, the real world never works like that. So it's not an accurate representation of what's going to happen. Well,
Yeah.
by that same token, we use electronic medical records. I can't talk right now, EMRs, in pretty much all of healthcare. Everything is digital, electronic. He goes, we also have the ability to encrypt data and make things anonymous. So how come we don't have a system that uses every patient's kind of case as a case report study? And how come we aren't studying the case reports of real patients that were treated in certain manners? And instead we're, spending millions and billions of dollars on these lab studies that don't even really apply the best to the real world. And it just
Yeah.
kind of blew my mind at first. So I wasn't
That's
sure if you've
great.
heard of
Yeah.
anything similar, or if your hospital's doing anything like that, or what your thoughts were on that.
Oh, I'm really not sure, but that is insane. I mean, that's totally true. I mean, you have all these people there and then you're just doing all these other like clinical trials and everything when you have everything right there, you
Yep,
know?
exactly. Great example. So when we get patients at the clinic I'm at right now who have things like chronic low back pain, the standard kind of treatment of care here has been manual lumbar traction. So
Mhm.
pull the spine apart, stretch it, gap it, and patients responded really well to that. Well, there's a lot of research against it. So it's like, okay, research says don't do it. But if I go to clinic and I do it, people feel better and move better.
Yeah.
So there's these discrepancies. And it's like, what do I do? Do I follow the research or do I follow what I'm seeing right in front of me?
That's like with everything. And like we're supposed to follow, they teach us to follow, evidence-based practice and things like that. And it's like, well, then the person in front of me is saying no, and this is saying yes.
Yeah, exactly. And the same is true with exercise, right? Like, a lot of the fitness studies typically use simple things to measure: leg press, leg extension on a isokinetic device, things that really don't have a whole lot of carryover. I can't tell you the last time I've done a leg press. I can't tell you if I've ever used an isokinetic device that changes the resistance for you to move at a constant speed. Um, those are the things we use in labs and researches, but I don't think they have the best carryover. And maybe I'm wrong, but so that's kind of my take on that. And then kind of last piece too, you've been, I would consider you a expert when it comes to the health of the youth, right? Children, because you are literally a pediatric med surg nurse. You treat kids. So health habits start in our youth when we're young. And the stats I'm seeing in our children these days are concerning. Over 1 in 4 is
Yeah.
obese and has a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. A lot of them don't meet the basic recommendations for exercising. And, there's this, I think we've talked about it before, this kind of obsession with things like Adderall, Xanax, video games, McDonald's, and this kind of cycle between them. So what's your take on the health of our children, our pediatric population, and what should we be doing to kind of help correct those issues moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to break this up into two: mental health and physical
Please
health as
do.
well
Yep.
too, because I'm so big on it. So mental health for these kids, I mean, we're seeing so many rising suicide rates, unfortunately, throughout all ages, men especially, boys especially.
Yep.
And like it's a very touchy subject for me, but I think we need to start letting our kids talk. I mean, just being in support groups now as myself, going to therapy and everything, you see all these things that no, my family didn't do these things to me or anything, but you see all these things that kids weren't able to express their feelings and things like that. And I'm very glad to see that a lot of parents are realizing that, because they're now younger, are my age, things like that are becoming parents, and they see all that and they're like, I want my kid to express themselves how they want to express themselves. And that's a big part of the mental health aspect, letting your kid be who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
In the physical fitness aspect and everything, we're all it's so sad seeing parents come in and they don't have time, they don't even have time to breathe. They're taking care of their kids, they're running them from, you want your kid to be involved in things and in sports and everything, and you're running from place to place, and then you don't have time to cook dinner, you're picking up McDonald's, you're doing those fast food things and everything. We just, I mean, I don't know how to fix that, but as a community, as a society, we need to stop being so rushed. And I don't know how that will ever be fixed. But like I said, the best thing that I can say, and I don't have kids that I can, say that it worked on. But the best thing that I can say is making it as fun and easy as you can, picking out one meal a day that you're going to swap out for, that you're going to cook at home this one day. Pick the least busiest night of the night that you have, if you can, and cook dinner at home that night and just have it go from there. um just things like that, starting
Yep.
out slow,
No,
cutting
for
back
sure.
slow. Yeah.
For sure. I like how you point that out. It's the simple things, right? It's not like you have to go out and instantly scrap all the, meal, whatever meal prep and meal plans you had. You can still keep to that, but involve your kids more, right?
Yeah.
Maybe have them join you in the kitchen, maybe have them help you out and kind of get them involved in that process of, hey, this is how we cook and make and prepare food.
Yep.
I think that's a essential skill, one. And two, especially for the guys, I will tell you, nothing makes a lady happier than telling her that you know how to cook and you can cook her a meal for a date. So,
I can say yes to that.
so definitely, start adding those skills. And there's a lot of other skills outside of cooking that I would consider healthy skills to have that most people don't have. And I think maybe you learning them yourself, if you're a new parent or you have kids, whatever, and being able to teach them to someone is not only going to benefit your son, daughter, or any kind of child that you have, but it's going to benefit you as well. So doing things like teaching them how to do basic woodworking and home improvement kind of projects. Like the amount of people I've seen who can't fix like, a basic broken pipe or a little wood chip or the doorknob comes off, and then they end up calling like a handyman and they spend like $80-$90, get a doorknob put back on or something. Like it's those kind of skills that, it's financially healthy, but it's also healthy for yourself in that you're giving yourself a sense of accomplishment in doing something. And it doesn't have to be just those basic skills like cars and home stuff, but it could be like doing laundry and sewing and being able to iron something. I can assure you that I don't know how to iron right now, but I really wish I did, because if you saw the shirt I have on, it's not looking too hot here. So these basic things can really go a long way. And I think that's very underutilized right now. And I also like how you said it's kind of letting kids be who and what they want to be. I don't see a problem with if a girl wants to drive a John Deere tractor, let her drive a John Deere tractor. If a guy wants to learn how to iron his shirt, let him learn how to iron his shirt and cook. Like those are good skills to have. And I don't think that those things are really gendered in a sense. And at the end of the day, too, like everyone does things that they regret. Everyone does things that they kind of look back on and say, I wish I didn't do that. So if that's like for, a young guy and he looks back and he goes, I wish I didn't spend so much time in those coloring books, or I wish I didn't spend so much time on this, that, the other thing. Who freaking cares? Like everyone feels like that. I can think of stuff. I'm sure you can think of stuff. So I think within reason, being able to just let kids be kids is such a underutilized and underrated tool that we seem to have forgotten. And we talk about this as holistic health. It's not just physical health and exercise. It's literally everything, every piece of their health. So I think that's awesome stuff, awesome points, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. Is there anything else that you kind of recommend we do for kids and kind of the children in the next generation?
I think the biggest thing, I mean, it's kind of incorporating their parents, obviously, but I think the biggest thing is, as everybody else, I think we need to stop judging them. Like, I mean, I when I run into parents that, have no time and their kid is on the screen time all the time and eating junk food and whatnot, you can't judge these people because you have to put yourself in their shoes. So you can't judge, but you have to also empower. So that's with everything. You can't judge anybody, but you have to help empower.
Yeah, for sure. I I'm gonna mention this because this is the best reference I can come up with to kind of add to that. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus himself says, don't point out the speck in someone else's eye when you yourself have a wooden plank in your own. It's just kind of that belief that, like, before you go and point out someone else's faults, kind of give yourself that gut check, that mirror check. And you kind of mentioned it with the screen time. I'm not a parent that I know of anyways. But if I had a kid and they spent a lot of time on the screen, then I would kind of have to assess and say, are they spending a lot of screen time because I am not giving them enough attention or not enough time a day, or my mind is elsewhere and not on them? Like, what is causing that? Don't address the symptom, address the root cause of things. And that applies to, not only mental health like this, but health, fitness, medical, in all aspects. Get to the root cause. Cut down the tree at the roots, not limb by limb. It'll go a lot quicker. So no, I think that's super important and super underutilized. So another thing that I'm really glad that you've brought up, you brought up some amazing points here, and it's kind of that blend of mental and physical health that is so important, how they interplay with one another.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you mentioned that. Is there anything else you want to mention quick? Or?
Just take one thing at a time. I'll say it again. Take
Yeah.
one thing at a time. Do one small thing a day. Find your support system. Do something that your body's gonna thank you later for. All the motivational things that you could think of.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And just let those habits keep building on themselves one
Yeah.
at a time. And if you've started down that road and you don't know where to turn, or if you need help getting started, I feel like you could probably reach out to either Diana or myself. So
Definitely.
if you'd like to do that, head over to Instagram. You can find Diana at Diana Marie Fit with an underscore at the end. Or obviously, you can find us on Instagram at Brawn Body with a W. With that, Diana, thank you so much for your time and for joining us. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe because we don't want you to miss next week's awesome episodes. Take care, everyone.